15. This slogan now resonates across the country to the extent that the veterans have launched a campaign, anyone but conservatives, and they campaign on that. We're with the farmers in the streets in Ottawa last week. They have the same sentiment. The public sector workers, the public servants, also have the same attitude. To vote with your heart, principles, minds against Harper, to defeat Harper, is to vote for something. To defeat the Harper dictatorship. But at the same time, we have to keep the liberals out. Because the liberals were the biggest proponents of neoliberal globalization. Has everybody forgotten this
15 seconds.
Scandal and everything else the liberals have been involved in? So, what is strategic voting in Nepean? Anyone but Wang.
Thank you, Mr. Seed. That's time.
That there is an alternative.
Thank you, Mr. Seed. That's time. Mr. Splett.
The question again, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying to listen to the candidates.
I'm chairman now.
I hear all of them. I lost the question.
Well, here, I'll read it to you in its entirety. You are all hoping to defeat the conservative candidate, Andy Wang. However, many progressive voters are concerned that you'll split the vote and the conservative candidate will win. Several websites have been created during this election which have told people how to vote in order to ensure the conservative candidate is defeated. How do you address strategic voting?
Don't do it. Vote on principle. It's difficult in an election to get a handle on really what is going on and what the facts are, what the truth is. So a good citizen will prepare themselves well before an election. Now I can defend the Harper government and their past if I had to do it. They've done a lot of good things, but they haven't done the things that I wanted them to do. And one of the most important things is, I personally put pressure on our Foreign Affairs Minister, John Baird, and I'm very disappointed with him, did not get a motion in the United Nations General Assembly to take action in Syria.
15 seconds.
That should have been done. We see now the consequence of not taking action.
Thank you, Mr. Splett. Mr. Arya.
I'll tell what I hear at the doors. For months now I've been knocking doors. There is a very clear anti-conservative wave. And another thing I hear at the doors is the anger of the public service employees. Public service employees, sometimes some people say that they're almost scared. Soon after I became nominated as the Liberal candidate, the first meeting I had was with the union leaders. I met representatives from Public Service Alliance Canada, PITS, and several other unions came to me on their own, the Firefighters Union, the Building and Construction Union. I know where their sentiments lie. I know their objective is to defeat conservatives, and they understand
15 seconds.
I am the candidate who can defeat. You know, members of 2 separate political parties have also approached me. They even donated to my campaign, and they are working with me in canvassing. So, I know strategic voting is important for us to defeat conservatives.
That's
Thank
the
you.
time. Thank you. The next question, Mr. Cosico, you will answer first. And this is from the floor tonight. What is the #1 priority for this riding specifically? And what will you do right here in our own backyard? Mr. Cosico.
I guess, among other things, is trying to keep the family values together. Emphasizing on family values. I think because Nepean, as I see it, is more family-oriented. And these are the things that we have to watch out for. We've heard about so many bad things that are starting to happen. And we have to be proactive on all these things, especially getting to our youths to be involved. And like one of my target groups is really the youth. That's why I have to, I'm begging them, even if they don't have to vote for me, get
15
involved
seconds.
and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cosico. Mr. Devine.
Thank you, sir. From my experience, from door knocking or speaking at events, it has become pretty clear that for Nepean, the most common issue I'm hearing is about concern amongst public servants in so many ways and shapes and forms. In their working environment, in how they're treated and respected, and simply the fact that so many of them are legitimately intimidated through their superiors. We heard the open letter from the Conservatives that they are the best guardians of the public service, and that letter got a lot of scorn. How is the NDP going to take care of this? Well, we just released our platform for that. We really do want to be, for lack of a better term, the guardians of the public service. We have to treat them with so much more respect. We have to change the attitude and the culture for public servants. We are going to be putting in place new codes of conduct for ministers and staff. We're going to be protecting their rights to fair negotiation. And I do want to let everyone know that the Liberals did just put out a platform for public service and included the term program review. And we all know what program review means. Program review in the 1990s meant pink slips for 55,000 public sector workers.
Thank you, Mr. Devine. That's time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. C.
It's a big question to answer in 1 minute. We have to look at Nepean not as someplace like Mars. It's part of Canada, it's part of the social and economic fabric. The local problems here are the same across the country. That is, people are disenfranchised, they're disempowered. When we stand for education, for health, for housing, people do not have rights. These are all presented as privileges. So we have to fight for rights with guarantee. To do that, we need mechanisms. We need to be organized. And this is why I said in my opening comments, we need to have effective assemblies where we can address these, where we can empower people throughout the riding to deal with these questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. C. Mr. Splett, do you want me to read the question?
No. I'm a retired civil servant, and I'm proud of it. I spent 15 years, and you taxpayers got fair for your money. The thing that I hear is fear of pensions running out, and but to protect those pensions and our healthcare system, if we don't start paying on the mortgage and wasting $29 billion a year on interest, then we'll all be back to work after 80.
Thank you, Mr. Splett. Mr. Arya.
There are three things. Number one, public service employees. I'm going to work to bring respect back into public service. I'm going to honor collective bargaining. Number two, I want to create a stable alternative technology sector to create quality jobs here. Not only it will create high quality, high paying jobs, it in turn will help hundreds of small businesses in Libya. The sector I'm talking is defense electronics, software and hardware. The jobs will not get outsourced out of Ottawa or Canada. The third is affordable housing. Many in Nepean don't know that. In Nepean, the wait time for an affordable housing is 15 years. 15 years people have to wait if they need a housing in Nepean. There are 10,000 people on the waiting list in Ottawa. I've been on the board of an affordable housing corporation, and I will work on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arya. And Mr. Cooke.
In previous debates, I've given impassioned rebukes to the lip service of the Conservatives. I won't bother repeating it here now. Just assume it was lots of emotion out there. I'm obviously very, very pro evidence for democracy. As an engineer, decisions have to be based on information. And there was a time in this country when we didn't argue the facts. We argued solutions to the problems that the facts presented. We need to go back to that, and by doing that, we have to unmuzzle our economists, our engineers, our scientists, our statisticians. We need the data so that all of us can be better informed on the issues. But as the small business critic for the Green Party, I'm going to turn to the economy. I do believe that small business is actually crucial to the economy. Being in tech myself, the way you get big businesses that are successful in the future, like Shopify, Research in Motion, all these businesses, they start off in someone's garage. And to get them started, you have to give someone the ability to get it started. So capital gains deferral for small business investment, I think is key. That will encourage people who are successful in a small business venture to give them the motivation to reinvest those, what was that time?
That's time.
Oh, man. Okay, I'll stop there.
The next question, we will start with Mr. Devine. I believe it's your turn to start first. And here it is, comes from the floor this evening. Do you think that any party with 39% of the vote should have 100% of the power? Or should the party with 39% of the vote have roughly 39% of the seats?
Well, that's a softball. No. I do believe that democracy is supposed to be the fulfillment of the expression of the will of the people. And if the will of the people is that 39% want this, then those 39% of people should not be entitled to 100% of the power. Especially when the 39% get that 100% of the power, they wield it precisely like they have 100% of the power. And they do not open the floor to consideration from others. They do not share that power whatsoever. They're like my brother was when we had a bag of chips when we were kids. I love chips. No, this is precisely why we all know this. If in 2011 we had proportional representation, we wouldn't be having this. Mr. Wang would be here because he'd be defending, he'd be going after something, not he'd be entitled to something. This is why we need electoral reform. So.
Mr. C.
Well, I'm not a fan of sour cream and onions. Got it. There's a fact that is missing in the question. Harper did not get 39% of the votes. We got 23% of the votes of all registered electors. So on the one hand, we're faced with the fact that in this so-called democracy, almost 50% of the people who are eligible are not voting. And this is who we're addressing. Secondly, what does he do with that 23%? He declares he has mandate for change. Who gave him the mandate? Not 23%. The vested interests who control the media, who manipulate the people to give him that. What did he do with it? He established a parliamentary dictatorship. Closure, omnibus bills, centralization of power in the Prime Minister's office.
That's time, Mr. C.
This is the reason why Harper must be defeated.
That's time.
The Liberals stepped out.
Mr. Splett.
If Harper has to be defeated, you're going to have to go to his riding, because that's the only way you'll defeat him. The problem in our system is right at the ballot box. A percentage of the people go to vote. A percentage votes for each candidate. And this candidate gets one vote more than the other one. That's where the stupidity comes in. It should require 2/3 of the votes that are cast. Then that person would reasonably well represent the people of that right.
Thank you, Mr. Splett. Mr. Arya.
Mr. Speed is right. Every time I tell people, you don't need 40%, you need 24% of the entire voters to vote you into power. We are the only party, the Liberal Party is the only party to propose that we are going to reform the way we elect the members of parliament. If elected to power, this will be the last election under the current system. We are going, within 18 months of coming into power, we are going to propose a new method of electing members of parliament. It can be proportional representation, it can be mandatory voting, it can be ranked ballots. We will study all the various alternatives. We will consult with wide range of Canadians and present a proposal within 18 months of forming the government. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arya. Mr. Cooke.
As I represent a party that for the last 15 years has been disproportionately punished through this strategic voting business, of course we want to get changes done. I have asked people who've called me up and saying, look, I normally vote for you, I want to vote strategically, what should I do? And I tell them point blank, call up whoever you think is going to vote strategically for you, whichever the strategic vote is, and ask them point blank, what electoral change will you implement? Because in the 90s, when the Liberals were in power, they commissioned a study in Elections Canada underneath the Chief Electoral Officer, Jean-Pierre Kingsley. Dozens of electoral reform proposals were put forward. They were all ignored because they thought, hey, the right is split, we're going to rule forever. 18 months, there are several configurations of parliament that are possible in 2 weeks, where 18 months is longer than the lifetime of that parliament. We need both major parties here, frankly, to state point blank, it's going to be ranked ballot, proportional representation, single transferable vote, whatever it is. They have to tell you, no more studies. The studies are done. We have to vote on it. The vote should be the first vote cast in Parliament.
That's time. Thank you. Mr. Cosico.
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer as an independent, but I will not pretend I have the intellect nor the tools to tell everybody else here that I have the magic wand to change the electoral reform. But for sure, there has to be change. And that change will have to start from us, from each and every one of us. We have to change the way we vote and sound out, voice out whatever you want and tell whoever becomes your representative to fight for what you want. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cosico. Next question. Mr. Seed will begin the answers. There are 7 men running in Nepean. 6 of them are here this evening. There are no female candidates. Why do you think that is? Is this a problem? And how can we ensure that 51% of the population are better represented in Parliament? Mr. Seed.
The fundamental question which has to be addressed is the renewal of the political process in which we require modern arrangements. Mr. Chandra's statement is blatantly false. Our party and other parties have put forward detailed proposals for reforming the parliamentary process.
Not answering the
On
question.
this particular
Not
question.
answering the question.
On this, yes, but this is part of the answer. Why are there so few women running? Proportionally, we are running one of the highest percentage number of women. Conservatives in Quebec have 9. Right? Do the public sector, women who work in the public sector, are they paid as much as men? So this is why it's an all-round question to restore rights.
15 seconds.
Not only of women and their participation of women, like tomorrow is vigils across the country for almost 1,500 missing Aboriginal women. Yet this is not an issue for Harper, who proclaims that he is for the emancipation of women by raising this hijab issue.
That's time, Mr. Seed. Thank you. Mr. Splett.
I don't know the answer to that question. Why aren't they? It's a free country. Everybody has equal opportunity. Once you start bending towards a group setting up positions like they've done in some countries, I think you're going down the wrong track. There are a lot of women who could stand up just as well as we are, just where are they? That's simple. Come on forward.
Thank you, Mr. Splett. All the way back down here. Mr. Arya.
In the audience, we have Patricia Pepper, who works very hard promoting women candidates at all levels of the government, city, provincial, and federal. Liberal Party has encouraged quite a number of women candidates. In Ottawa region, out of 8 candidates, we have 3 women, very highly qualified women running. Ottawa West Nepean, Ottawa Centre, and Karnataka Alta. Plus, the party has pledged that if elected to power in the cabinet, we will have equal representation of both sexes. That is a party commitment, and I'm very confident that we are going to honor it. Thank you.
If we look at democracies across the world, all countries that have first past the post electoral systems disproportionately have fewer women in their parliamentary system. Like, they're all at the bottom. In countries that have either mixed member proportional or single transferable vote, or other electoral systems that are actually mathematically and logically rigorous to actually be provably where there is no strategic vote. There is no strategic vote other than what you want. Those kinds of electoral systems, those ones, more women run because more women see the possibility of them winning and more women end up getting elected. So again, our democracy, the voting system, the electoral system, is at the source of the problem why there aren't very many women up here. And I'm running for a party where we have a female leader who is a staggeringly brilliant woman, but it's only because she has an eidetic memory and I don't think she sleeps.
Mr. Cosico.
I hope I give an answer that my wife will be proud of me. Like Mr. Steve, I guess I don't have the answer. And it boils down again to the indifference that society has. And I bring this up in the same token I brought up the indifference of the youth who are not voting, and even the female, where there are women who won't run. And I believe there are brave women here, but still, like I said, I don't have the answer to that. Maybe we should throw the answer to the women and come up front, and you're all welcome to fight the good fight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cosico. Mr. Devine.
If the question is eventually, do I think that it's a problem that there are no women up here, then yes, of course I do. We talked about proportional representation. That's hardly proportional. Look around the room right here. There was a photo that the Conservatives released when Mr. Harper strolled in on a bus and tried to galvanize the troops at a hangar in Ottawa. And all of the 9 very chummy men in shirts and ties stood there and posed proudly. There was not a woman among those 9 men. There was not a woman among those 9 men. Amongst the NDP slate here in Ottawa, there are presently 4 out of 9 who are women candidates. And I tell you, quite honestly, quite frankly, it came down to a razor wire margin at our nomination meeting. There would have been a woman up here right now because that's how our riding very closely almost voted.
15 seconds.
Thank you very much. Last thing, when people at the door tell me that they don't like childcare, those are mainly conservatives. Those are mainly conservative men who do not agree with the fact that something like childcare, and my wife will attest to this, is a solution that empowers women. Do the NDP want this? Yes, absolutely we do.
Thank you, Mr. Devine. Mr. C.
Next question.
Yeah. Pass the microphone to Mr. Splett for the next question, please. Since we're on the topic of women, what will you do locally to address violence against women? And what is the party's national plan, particularly for missing and murdered Aboriginal women? Mr. Splett.
Not representing any party, I don't have that answer. We've got to address the bigger problem, and that is protecting everybody, including women and other groups that seem to be targeted. We have a police force, we have the federal police force, and we just can't seem to get around it. I suggest we start by reactivating the local crime watch building here that we used to have. The chief of police shut down for economic reasons. That was working very well.
15 seconds.
And that's where I would start.
Thank you, Mr. Splett. Mr. Arya.
The staggering number of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls is unacceptable. We have got a very clear stand which I would like to state. The federal government must call a full, public, transparent inquiry mandated to determine the cause of the disproportionately large number of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls so that we can put an end to the violence. So that is the stand we have taken, that we have announced it publicly quite often, and we are going to implement it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arya. Mr. Cooke.
I met the Canadian Jewish Congress as part of my election campaign, and trust me that this does dovetail. They ask many questions, often the ones that many of you would think, your relationship with Israel, et cetera, anti-Semitism, so on. But their last question was, point blank, what will you do about the recommendations put forward in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission? And their reasons were, and after they say them, it becomes abundantly obvious, because it's a principled position to take, because they themselves were a culture that was marginalized and systematically targeted and nearly pushed to the brink of oblivion. And here in Canada, it is a dark mark on our nation's history, the way we've treated the residential people and the Aboriginals in our country in the past and even in the present. Missing and murdered Aboriginal women needs to have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. As Mr. Arya has said, it needs to be done. We need to look at these experts and what they advise, and we need to implement those advisories. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooke. Mr. Cosico?
Yeah, the question here is two-pronged. One is the Aboriginal women, which is really more historical than anything else. Then the other one would be the abuse on women, or violence against women. I guess that's the bigger picture. And I guess again, as I will be consistent in why I'm here. I see a problem in the society in which it has to be addressed, and we have to start somewhere. And like I said, a journey to 1,000 miles begins with the first step, so we have to take the first step. So whatever recommendations that have been recommended for the Aboriginal missing women, then they have to be implemented, or it needs to be restudied. So be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cosico. Mr. Devine.
No disrespect to what you just said, Jesus, but the problem of 1,200 murdered and missing Aboriginal women is not historical, it's extremely contemporary. Mr. Mulcair was the first national leader who said that he will launch an inquiry into murdered and missing Aboriginal women within the first 100 years of his mandate, and I believe that Mr. Mulcair... He's going to be around that long, folks. But as for violence against women, a quick solution that the NDP has proposed, put more cops on the street. We need more frontline officers being able to do their job. Another solution, stop slashing to healthcare, because within the slashes of healthcare are social services. We need more social services for these women. And my good friend, Carrie Lynn Poole, who knows a lot more than I do about a lot of things, yes, we'll address violence against women. What about economic violence against women? The wage disparity gap between the average man and woman, and Carrie, talk to her later. She knows much more about this.
Thank you, Mr. Devine.
Address that.
Mr. C.
Since I raised the question, I'd like to briefly deal with the question of the Aboriginal women. We can start by joining the vigils tomorrow. They're being held in 81 cities across Canada. This itself is a national shame, and it's an indictment of a criminal attitude by the Harper government, as well as the inclusion of vested interests such as the media in covering this up or presenting it as a marginal issue. In Halifax, there were 5 British Navy sailors who were charged with rape of a woman. 25 investigators were put on that case under military police. Within 1 month, they were all released under own recognizance
15 seconds.
To military bases in Alberta or back to the United Kingdom. So this is just small examples of the degeneration of the attitude, of the atmosphere in terms of respect for our fellow Canadians. More police will not solve the problem.
Thank you, Mr. C. That's
fundamental
time.
questions have to be addressed.
Thank you, Mr. C. I'd like to go back this way to Mr. Arya as we begin a new set of questions.
I thought I answered that question.
You did. Thank you, Mr. Splett. Next question. Gentlemen, what would you do to ensure that Canadian veterans are properly supported, particularly those with physical or mental injuries? Mr. Arya.
we have come out with a veterans policy. We have said we are going to restore lifelong pension to injured veterans. We are going to reopen the offices closed by the Conservative government, and we are going to increase the pension paid to the surviving spouse. So we have come out with a very elaborate, very detailed policy towards supporting our veterans.
Thank you. Mr. Cooke.
Thank you. The first and foremost, the lump sum payouts for veterans is frankly a neglection of our duty as a society. When we elect members of parliament, we elect them to go and do many things. One of the powers that they're given to a member of parliament is the ability to declare war on another country, send our soldiers off to fight, die, and kill in our name. When they come back, whether or not you agree with what they've done, we all agree that they need to be taken care of because they did that in the name of our country. These lump sum payments given to a demographic that's disproportionately vulnerable to substance abuse, mental problems, you're just giving them enough rope to hang themselves with, and that's just not responsible. As a society, we need to say, look, we're going to take care of you, and I know that seems paternal, but it has to be done. We're going to take care of you and your family, and not just those who are injured and hurt, but also their families as well. Of course, we reopen offices, and the Veterans Platform is the first one launched among the Green Party platform in this campaign.
Thank you, Mr. Cooke. Thank you, Mr. Cooke. Mr. Cosico.
Yeah, one thing for sure, we have to definitely address the needs of our veterans, since they're the ones who's really fought for what we are now and what we can do now. Then again, as Mr. Cooke said, there has to be something that has to be looked upon, and again, I'm being consistent, it's a societal thing. We all need to look into it, forget about politics, forget about partisan politics, and we look towards a common goal, especially for our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cosico. Mr. Devine.
This is a huge issue because we're talking about people who are willing to. We're talking about people who are willing to die. If I was in a position that I was sending off men and women who were willing to die